Welcome to Lady Mythos. If you're still awake, that's all right. You're exactly where you need to be. Before heaven feared him, before he dared to call himself equal to the gods, before celestial armies ever spoke his name, he was only a stone. Tonight, we return to the beginning of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, not as a warrior, not as a rebel, but as something far more dangerous. A being born without limits. This is not a lecture, not a documentary. This is the quiet origin, the mountain, the waterfall. The first time he understood death, and the night he chose to escape it. We will watch a stone split open on Flower Fruit Mountain. We will see how a young monkey became king, not through conquest, but through courage. We will step behind a waterfall into a hidden cave, and we will follow him across oceans until he finds the master who teaches him the 72 transformations and the somersault that can carry him 108,000 li in a single turn. But tonight, we stop before heaven. We stay at the moment power was born. For now, let the day loosen its grip. Let the forest grow around you. Unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders sink. And when you're ready, let's climb the mountain. Chapter 1. The stone that gave birth to Sun Wukong. Before there is a name, there is only place. A mountain that has existed long enough to forget who first looked at it. A mountain that does not perform for anyone. No temples carved into its sides, no banners, no footsteps worn into its paths. Only wilderness and the slow patience of stone. They called it Flower Fruit Mountain, though the name came later, after mouths existed to speak it. In the beginning, it is simply a living mass of earth and rock, rising up into the air like a thought held too long. At dawn, mist gathers along its ridges and hollows. Not a dramatic mist, no theatre of fog and lightning, just the soft exhale of warm ground meeting cold air. In that pale light, trees are silhouettes, branches are delicate ink lines, and somewhere below the canopy, unseen streams draw their own roots through the mountain's body. If you imagine it now, let it be slow. Let the camera of your mind drift, not snap. Over green slopes, over cliffs softened by time, over fruit trees, heavy with sweetness when the season allows, and bare when the season demands. Over birds that have no reason to fear. Over monkeys that have not yet met the one who will be their king. And higher, where the air thins and the world becomes quieter, the mountain grows more bare. Rock shows itself openly there. Wind has fewer obstacles. It moves cleanly, combing the surface of the peak, polishing everything it touches. And near the crown of this ancient place, where the sky feels close enough to press a palm against, there is a stone. Not a boulder meant to be admired, not a shrine, not a marker, just a stone. Weathered, ordinary, grey. So ordinary that if you passed it on a walk, you would not stop. But myths rarely begin with what looks impressive. They begin with what is overlooked, with what is left alone long enough for something to gather. The old story says this stone was nourished, not in the way a person is nourished, no hands, no offerings, but in the way mountains are nourished, by what they endure. It held summer heat in its skin. It held winter frost in its pores. It drank rain until rain became part of it. It listened to thunder until thunder felt like memory. Day after day, the sun crossed above it. Night after night, the moon passed over like a pale witness. Over years too large to count, the stone absorbed what the world gave freely. Light and darkness, warmth and cold. In the language of old China, they would say it received the balance of yin and yang, the quiet pull of opposites circling each other, shaping reality with their endless tension. Heaven and earth, sky and soil, pressing against one another, meeting at the surface of this rock as if the stone were the seam where worlds touch. And inside it, something began. Not suddenly, not like a spark, more like a deep, slow accumulation, as if the stone were learning a new task, as if it were remembering something it had forgotten it could do. The myth calls it a divine womb, not because it is soft or warm or human, but because it is a space where life can form without parents, without blood, without lineage. A hollow created by time, carved out by a force that does not explain itself. If you place your attention there, you can almost feel it. The pressure building, the quiet insistence, the sense that the stone is no longer only stone. The mountain remains indifferent. The sky continues its rhythm. Birds pass. Clouds break apart and reform. But the rock is changing. It is holding something. And then, on a day that does not announce itself to anyone, the stone cracks. Not with a loud shatter, not with an explosion, but with a sound like a seam finally giving way. A line appears across its surface, then another, as if the stone is taking a breath it has been holding for centuries. The split widens, and from within, something rolls outward. A round shape, a stone egg, smooth and cool, catching a faint sheen of morning light. It rests on the mountain's peak as if it belongs there, as if it has always belonged there. Wind touches it first, dry, thin wind, the kind that makes everything feel sharpened. The egg does not move. Sunlight warms it next. The surface darkens slightly where the heat lands, then fades back to grey. Then rain comes, gentle, brief, and the egg gleams, newly polished, as if the world itself is preparing it. If the story feels dreamlike here, that is because it is. This is the part where myth speaks in symbols, the universe as parent, nature as midwife, time as the only necessary ingredient. And then, without warning, the egg shifts. A hairline crack appears. It spreads. Stone flakes fall away like petals. And the egg opens. Out steps a monkey. Not an infant. Not trembling. Not confused. A full-formed creature with limbs already sure, eyes already awake, movements already purposeful. Like someone who has been practicing existing in secret. He looks around as if he recognizes the world. And in that moment, the myth adds a detail that feels almost cinematic, sharp enough to cut through the softness of dawn. From his eyes, two beams of golden light shoot upward into the sky. Straight, fierce, clean. They rise like spears, vanishing into the heavens as if challenging them to respond. Far above, beyond cloud, beyond wind, beyond the realm of anything that grows, the disturbance is noticed. In the celestial court, where spirits and officials measure the order of existence like accountants of fate, the Jade Emperor pauses. He is not frightened, he is not impressed, but he is aware. He dispatches watchers, silent observers who move like thought, to see what has caused the blaze of light. They return with their answer. It is only a monkey, they say. A strange monkey, born from stone, but still only a creature of earth. And when the monkey eats and drinks, the golden beams fade, leaving the sky undisturbed once more. The heavens, satisfied, turn their attention away. They file the moment into the category of nothing to worry about. They do not understand yet what the mountain has made. The monkey stretches. He climbs. He moves. He tests the strength in his arms, the spring in his legs. He scrambles across rocks as if the cliff face is a familiar game. He leaps between ledges with the casual precision of someone who does not fear falling. As the day warms, he descends from the peak into the forest, and the forest receives him. Leaves brush his fur. Branches bend. Sunlight flickers in shifting patches across his shoulders. He discovers fruit, sweet, sticky, bursting with life. He eats until his belly is full, then eats again because joy makes him careless. Soon he hears voices, chattering, calling, laughing. Other monkeys, a troop living among the trees, their lives shaped by the simple rhythm of hunger and play, safety and danger, day and night. They see him and freeze. A stranger, a newcomer, different in a way they cannot name. But the stone-born monkey is not threatening. He is not cautious. He meets their stare, and then, without asking permission, he joins them. Climbing, leaping, chasing, tumbling through branches like he has always been there. And something remarkable happens. They accept him. Not because they understand him, but because he moves like them. Because he laughs like them. Because he has the same bright hunger for life that they do. Days pass, perhaps seasons. The stone-born monkey learns the mountain's pleasures. He learns which branches will hold his weight and which will snap. He learns where fruit ripens first. He learns the places where water collects and the places where predators sometimes watch. He becomes part of the troop. And for a while, there is no prophecy in him. For a while, he is simply a wild creature living under open sky. A beginning, uncomplicated. But even here, even in this early piece, the myth is quietly arranging its next step. Because the mountain did not create him to remain ordinary. It created him to move, to leap, to cross thresholds. And soon, the mountain will offer him one. Not in the form of a battle, not in the form of a warning, but in the form of water. A waterfall. A white, roaring veil hiding something behind it. And as the troop drifts toward the stream that feeds it, laughing in the bright air, Sun Wukong, though he is not yet called that, moves with them, unaware that the next leap he takes will make him king. Chapter 2: The Waterfall Trial and Rise of the Monkey King. The forest is louder in daylight. Leaves shimmer when wind moves through them. Insects hum close to the ground. Monkeys chatter in overlapping bursts, quick sounds, sharp and bright, like sparks rising from dry wood. The troop moves easily across the lower slopes of Flower Fruit Mountain, following a familiar path toward the stream that winds between roots and polished stones. It is a place of ritual. They drink there, they wash there, they tumble and splash until the air is filled with water and laughter. The stone-born monkey moves among them without hesitation. He has become quick in the trees, sure-footed along the rocks. If there is something different about him, it does not show as dominance. It shows as confidence, an ease in his body that makes even risky leaps look deliberate. The stream runs cool and clear. It reflects fragments of sky through gaps in the canopy. Today, it feels stronger than usual. The current pulls with quiet insistence, guiding leaves and petals downstream. The monkeys follow it, almost absent-mindedly at first. Upward, the climb grows steeper. The air thins slightly, cooler now, and the sound of water changes, deepens, until it is no longer a trickle, but a rush. They push through branches and emerge onto rock. And there it is, a waterfall wide enough to feel like a wall of motion. Sunlight catches its surface and fractures into silver threads. Mist rises in a fine veil, dampening fur and cooling skin. It is not violent. It is not frightening. But it is immense enough to command attention. The troop gathers at its edge, staring upward at the arc of falling water. They chatter excitedly, pointing, daring one another closer. The base of the waterfall is a pool that churns gently before calming into the stream below. Behind the water, something darker flickers. A shadow where there should only be rock. One monkey edges forward, squinting through the white cascade. "There's something back there," he calls out. Another laughs, dismissive. "Just stone." But the idea has already taken root. Curiosity spreads quickly in a group that has known nothing but the boundaries of its own territory. What if there is more? What if the waterfall is not a barrier, but a door? The troop begins to shout playful challenges. It starts as a joke. Who would dare leap through the falling water and see what lies behind? The rules take shape, the way rules always do among the young and bold. Whoever goes through the waterfall, whoever survives the plunge and returns to tell what they saw, that one will be king. There is no solemn ceremony attached to this declaration. It is said with laughter, with splashes and mock bows. But beneath the humor is something real. They are testing for bravery. They are testing for the one who will move first when others hesitate. Several monkeys approach the edge and then pull back. The sound of water grows louder the closer they step. The force of it is deceptive. It does not look crushing, but it is thick enough to blur vision completely. To leap through is to leap blind. The stone-born monkey watches. He does not rush. He does not posture. He studies the fall of water, the angle of rock, the depth of the pool. The troop continues its teasing. "No one dares. It's impossible. Only a fool would try." He steps forward. There is no speech, no announcement. He crouches slightly, muscles tightening in one smooth preparation. The world narrows. The sound of water fills everything. And then he jumps. The moment stretches. For an instant, he is suspended between sunlight and spray, between air and impact. Then the waterfall swallows him whole. White noise, cold shock, weightless darkness. From the outside, the troop gasps. Some scramble backward. Others lean forward in alarm. Seconds pass. Too many seconds. Then, a shape bursts back through the falling water. The stone-born monkey lands on wet rock, soaked but upright, eyes bright with something that looks almost like triumph. He shakes water from his fur and laughs. "There's a cave," he calls out, voice carrying over the roar. "A dry cave, wide and open. It's not just stone, it's a place to live." The troop falls silent. He describes what he saw in simple, breathless fragments. Stone ledges shaped like beds, natural pillars holding up a vaulted ceiling, a smooth interior protected from wind and rain, an inscription carved into rock, marking the place as something more than shelter. A name. Water Curtain Cave. A hidden dwelling concealed by motion and sound. Excitement surges through the troop. Fear dissolves into eagerness. One by one they leap, following the path he carved through uncertainty. Soon the waterfall no longer looks like a threat. It looks like an entrance. Inside, the air changes. Cooler, stiller, echoing slightly with each movement. Light filters in faintly through the sheet of water, creating shifting patterns on the cave walls. The space feels secure, enclosed without being suffocating. They explore every corner. The stone-born monkey stands near the entrance, watching as his companions test the stone surfaces, peer into recesses, and claim favourite spots as if the cave has always been theirs. It is more than shelter. It is safety. It is permanence. Eventually, someone remembers the vow. The laughter quiets. They turn toward him. He did what none of them dared. He crossed the threshold first. There is no debate now. They bow, not in elaborate ritual, but in acknowledgement. He has proven something. Not strength, not cruelty, but willingness. He becomes their king that day, not because he demanded it, not because he conquered, but because he leapt when the others would not. They give him a title that reflects admiration more than fear. A handsome king, a brave king. And in that dim cave, behind falling water, leadership settles onto him as naturally as rain on stone. The troop reorganizes instinctively around him. He does not rule by command. He guides by example. When fruit is scarce, he climbs highest. When danger approaches, he stands closest to the front. The Water Curtain Cave becomes a kingdom defined not by walls, but by shared trust. Days blend into seasons. The waterfall continues its endless descent outside, concealing their home from wandering predators. Sunlight shifts across the entrance in golden bands each afternoon. The monkeys thrive. And the king, once a solitary figure stepping out of cracked stone, now belongs to something larger than himself. It is a bright chapter, one filled with movement and laughter and new beginnings. But brightness does not prevent change. Time, which shaped the stone that birthed him, continues to move. The troop grows older. The forest remains beautiful. And one evening, as the light thins and shadows stretch long across the cave floor, something happens that will fracture this joy. Not with violence, not with invasion, but with stillness. A body that does not rise, a breath that does not return. The waterfall will continue to fall, the mountain will continue to stand, but the king will look at one of his own and understand something for the first time. That courage can win caves, but it cannot defeat death. And in that realization, the story will change its direction. Chapter 3. The Night He Feared Death. Evening settles differently inside a cave. Outside, the forest dims in layers, green becoming shadow, shadow becoming ink. But within the water curtain cave, the light fades more gently. The waterfall at the entrance turns from silver to grey to a dark curtain, and the air cools against fir and stone alike. The troop gathers as they often do, close, warm, breathing in a slow collective rhythm after a day of climbing and feeding. There is comfort in numbers, comfort in routine. The king sits near the entrance, where the last light reaches. He watches the way dusk presses against the water, how the world outside narrows into shapes and sound. Laughter drifts through the cave. A young monkey tumbles into another. Someone steals a half-eaten fruit. A small argument sparks and dissolves just as quickly. Life, unremarkable and full. And then, almost too quietly to notice at first, one of the older monkeys does not rise. He'd been sitting near the back wall, shoulders rounded, eyes half closed. It looked like sleep. But when another brushes past him, he does not stir. The movement draws attention. A nudge, a sharper push, a call of his name. Nothing. The king stands. He moves slowly, not because he senses danger, but because something in the air has shifted. The rhythm of the cave feels wrong, like a note played out of key. He kneels beside the still body. The older monkey's fur is cool where it should be warm. His chest does not rise. His eyes remain closed, but not in rest. There is no tension left in the face, no faint twitch of dream. The troop gathers in a widening circle. Confusion ripples first, then fear. The king places his hand against the chest, as if he might press life back into it. He waits. Nothing answers. The waterfall continues its endless fall outside. The night insects continue their steady song. The world does not pause. That is the first lesson. Death is not dramatic. It does not always arrive with claws or teeth. Sometimes it arrives as stillness, so complete it feels unreal. The troop begins to cry out. Some retreat to the edges of the cave, others cling to one another. The younger monkeys look to the king, expecting him to correct this, to fix it the way he fixed the challenge of the waterfall. But he cannot leap through this. He cannot strike it down. He cannot argue with it. He sits beside the body until the cave grows fully dark. The realization unfolds slowly, like cold spreading through water. The older monkey will not wake. The king's thoughts turn inward for the first time, not toward movement, not toward leadership, but toward himself. If this can happen here, inside their hidden kingdom, behind the safety of the waterfall, then safety is thinner than he believed. He had assumed that strength and cleverness were enough, that boldness carved security. But death does not negotiate with bravery. He looks around the cave at his companions, at their frightened faces, at the tremor in their limbs, and something tightens in his chest. He imagines the day when one of them looks at him this way. He imagines his own body lying still against stone. The thought is sharp. He rises abruptly and steps toward the cave entrance. The waterfall glows faintly under starlight. Beyond it, the forest is a shifting mass of shadow. Somewhere beyond the mountain, the world stretches vast and unknowable. The old stories speak of realms beneath the earth, courts of the underworld where names are recorded in ledgers, where lifespans are measured and cut short according to rules no one on the mountain has ever seen. The king has never feared a predator. He has never feared height or fall. But this invisible boundary frightens him. He cannot see it. He cannot fight it. He cannot even locate it. He turns back toward the cave. The troop has settled into uneasy silence. The body has been moved gently to a quiet corner. There is no ritual, no words for this moment. He stands before them. "Does anyone know," he asks quietly, "how to escape this?" The question hangs in the air. No one answers at first. Then an older voice, thin and uncertain, speaks from the edge of the group. "There are beings who do not die." The king's head lifts. "Immortals," the voice continues. "Sages who live in hidden mountains. Holy ones who have learned secrets beyond ours." The word feels heavy. Immortal. It lands in the king's mind like a stone dropped into water, sending out widening circles. "Where?" he asks. The voice falters. "Far. Beyond the sea. Beyond lands we do not know. They hide from ordinary creatures." The king does not sit back down. He does not dismiss the idea as fantasy. Instead, he feels something ignite, stronger than fear. Resolve. If such beings exist, then they can be found. If a secret exists, it can be learned. He looks once more at the still form against the cave wall. This will not happen to him. He refuses it. The decision does not come as a shout. It comes as a steady alignment inside him, like bones settling into place. He announces it the next morning, when light filters through the waterfall once more. He will leave the mountain. He will cross the sea. He will find the Immortals and learn what they know. The troop protests. They cling to him. They remind him of their kingdom, their safety, their shared joy. But he is no longer only a king. He is a being who has glimpsed the edge of existence and found it unacceptable. He orders a raft to be built from pine wood gathered at the mountain's edge. Simple, functional, enough to carry him beyond sight of land. He takes a bamboo pole, a small supply of fruit, and nothing else. At the shore, the troop gathers in a silent line. There is no ceremony here either, only a long look between them. The waterfall continues its endless descent behind the cave. The mountain stands unchanged. The king steps onto the raft. For the first time since his birth, he leaves Flower Fruit Mountain. The water carries him outward. The cave recedes. The troop becomes a blur of shapes against green. And the king, once content with fruit and laughter, now travels towards something invisible, driven not by conquest, but by fear of ending. The sea stretches wide, and the journey begins. Chapter 4. Across the sea in search of Immortals. The sea does not welcome or resist him. It simply carries. The raft rises and falls with patient rhythm, wood creaking faintly beneath his weight. Salt dries against his fur. The horizon remains an unbroken line for days at a time, blurring sky and water into a single pale expanse. He has never known a world this large. On Flower Fruit Mountain, the edges were clear. Forest met cliff. Cliff met sky. Everything had boundaries you could see. Here, there are none. Morning light spills across the surface like molten glass. At night, the stars multiply beyond counting. The raft drifts under constellations that feel impossibly distant, and the king, once surrounded by the noise of his troop, now listens to nothing but wind and water. He does not fear it, but he feels its scale. Time stretches differently at sea. Days lose their names. Hunger becomes a quiet companion. Thirst sharpens his attention. And still, he does not turn back. The fear that pushed him from the cave remains steady, like a hand between his shoulders, urging him forward. Eventually, After what feels like a lifetime compressed into drifting, land rises from the horizon. Low at first, then clearer. Human land. He guides the raft toward shore. The sand feels foreign beneath his feet, fine, shifting, without the grip of roots or stone. He smells smoke, hears voices unlike any he has known. The first humans he sees react as animals often do when confronted with something unfamiliar. They shout, they scatter. Some grab tools, lifting them defensively. Others flee outright, glancing back in alarm. He stands still. He is not a predator here, but he is not understood. He watches them from a distance for days, hiding among trees and hills. He observes how they move in clusters, how they build shelters from timber and clay. He notices their clothing, their tools, the way they store grain and argue over property. They appear fragile, and yet organized. He begins to mimic them, not perfectly, but enough to blend from afar. He wraps cloth around his body. He walks upright more often. He restrains the instinct to leap and climb openly. He enters villages at night, curious but cautious. He listens. Humans talk endlessly. Of trade, of weather, of status, of who owns what and who owes whom. He hears them speak of wealth as if it is protection, of power as if it is permanence. But he also sees sickness. He sees age, bending backs and whitening hair. He sees grief move through households like a slow illness. He sees funerals. The sight tightens something in him. Even here, beyond his mountain, death is present. So he keeps searching. He wanders through fields and forests, through small towns and larger cities. He studies human teachers, scholars who speak of philosophy and order. He sits outside temples where incense curls upward and priests chant prayers to unseen forces. He learns quickly, too quickly. He absorbs language and posture and habit with startling ease. But knowledge alone is not what he seeks. He asks quietly, in marketplaces and roadside inns, if anyone knows of immortals. Most laugh. Some shake their heads. A few grow uneasy, as if the question itself invites trouble. Years pass. His fur grows slightly thicker, his face sharper with experience. He learns that human ambition is loud but fragile. He learns that men with gold still tremble when illness comes. He learns that no kingdom, no matter how fortified, can prevent the final stillness he witnessed in the cave. The world is vast, but it is not the answer. One afternoon, deep within a wooded valley, he hears something different. Not a sermon, not bargaining, a song. Clear and steady, cutting through the sound of axe against wood. A woodcutter stands among tall pines, chopping rhythmically. His voice carries between trunks with calm certainty. The words are strange, not romantic, not sorrowful. They speak of sages who live beyond ordinary sight, of mountains where clouds gather around hidden caves, of masters who teach the art of transcendence to those who seek with unwavering heart. The king listens from behind a tree. The song feels deliberate, not for entertainment, for memory. He steps forward. The woodcutter startles, but does not run. Perhaps by now the king's movements are less feral, more measured. "Where did you learn that song?" the king asks. The woodcutter hesitates. "It was taught to me," he replies cautiously. "By someone who knows such things." "Where is this person?" The woodcutter studies him carefully. There is something in the king's gaze that feels both wild and focused. "There is a mountain," he says at last, "hidden beyond these valleys. Few go there. Fewer are welcomed." He describes a path not marked on any map, winding through ridges and thick forests toward a place spoken of only in quiet tones. The king feels the old spark return. Direction. He thanks the woodcutter and leaves at once. The journey shifts again, from wandering without aim to climbing with purpose. The path narrows, trees grow taller, the air cools. Mist thickens as he ascends, swallowing sound and distance alike. Footsteps become muffled. The world reduces to immediate shapes: rock, root, breath. He feels closer now. Not because he sees anything certain, but because the air itself feels charged. He climbs for days, perhaps weeks. Time resumes its strange elasticity in the mountains. And then, through a break in the fog, he sees it. A cave entrance set into stone, simple and unadorned. No banners, no guards, just stillness. The air around it feels different, quiet in a way that is not emptiness, but restraint. He steps forward. For the first time since leaving Flower Fruit Mountain, doubt brushes against him. What if he is refused? What if immortality is a story meant only to soothe the fearful? He kneels and waits. Mist curls around him. The forest remains silent. He does not call out. He does not pound against the stone. He waits with the same stubborn patience that once drove him through a waterfall. Time passes. Then, from within the cave, footsteps. Measured, unhurried. The stone doorway opens. A young attendant stands there, calm and composed. "My master has been expecting a visitor," the attendant says quietly. The king rises. His journey has not ended, but it has reached its threshold. Chapter 5. The Daoist Master and his new name. The air inside the cave is different from the forest outside. It is not damp, not wild. It feels measured. The king steps across the threshold and immediately senses the shift. The scent of pine and soil gives way to something subtler. Burnt incense, perhaps, or the faint trace of oil from old lamps. The cave is deeper than it first appeared. Passages curve gently inward. The walls are smooth, not by nature alone, but by deliberate shaping. Light filters through narrow openings high above, thin beams that catch drifting dust and make it glow faintly in the dimness. The attendant walks ahead without hurry. The king follows. His footsteps echo softly, and for the first time since leaving his mountain, he feels the weight of being a stranger. They enter a wider chamber. Seated at the far end, elevated slightly on a natural stone platform, is a figure robed in simple cloth. His posture is upright, composed, without ornament or display. Around him sit other disciples, silent, attentive, unmoving. The master does not look surprised. He looks as though he has been aware of this moment for some time. The king bows. It is not a gesture he practiced on his mountain. It feels foreign in his body, but necessary here. The master speaks first. "From where do you come?" His voice is steady, neither welcoming nor dismissive. The king answers plainly. He tells of Flower Fruit Mountain, of the stone that opened, of the water curtain cave, of the death that drove him outward. A flicker passes across the master's face, too brief to read. "You claim to have been born from stone," the master says. There is no accusation in his tone, but there is scrutiny. "Yes," the king replies. The chamber remains silent. The master studies him longer now. "You have no parents, no lineage, no clan?" "No." The word hangs in the air. The master turns slightly, addressing his other students without looking away from the newcomer. "There are those who invent stories to elevate themselves," he says calmly, "who seek instruction without understanding its weight." The king feels heat rise beneath his fur, not anger, but urgency. "I crossed the sea," he says. "I wandered for years. I have nothing but this request." "And what is that request?" the master asks. The answer comes without hesitation. "I do not wish to die." The words echo softly against stone. The disciples shift almost imperceptibly. The master remains still. There is no immediate response. The silence stretches, not hostile, but deliberate. It tests him more than any physical trial could. Finally, the master gestures for him to come closer. "You may stay," he says. No warmth, no celebration, simply permission. The king exhales slowly. He has passed the first gate. Days turn into weeks. Life in the cave is structured. There are hours for sweeping, for carrying water, for tending the small gardens carved into terraces near the entrance. There are hours for study, recitation of texts, meditation, breathing exercises designed to quiet the restless mind. The king, who once ruled by instinct and movement, now learns stillness. It is harder than leaping through waterfalls. He kneels until his legs ache. He listens until his thoughts slow. He repeats passages until words lose their edges and become rhythm instead of meaning. He does not complain. He does not demand. He watches the other disciples carefully, how they fold their robes, how they bow, how they speak only when addressed. His movements grow more controlled, his voice softer. The master observes from a distance. One evening, after months, perhaps longer, the master calls him forward again. "You seek immortality," the master says. "Yes." "There are many teachings here," the master continues. "Some lead to clarity, some to longevity, some to power. Which do you truly desire?" The king considers. He has seen enough of the world to know that power without duration is fragile. "Longevity," he says at last. "Freedom from death." The master nods slightly. "You ask for something that carries consequence." The king does not waver. The master studies him one final time, as if measuring something beyond words. Then he speaks. "You cannot remain as you are. You will need discipline beyond impulse, focus beyond pride." He pauses. "And you will need a name." The chamber feels suddenly smaller. A name is not a title given by peers. It is something deeper. "You were born without lineage," the master says. "But you will not remain without identity." He gives him the surname Sun, a sound connected in the old language with the monkey form itself, and also with youth, with beginnings. Then a given name, Wukong, awakened to emptiness. The king lowers his head. The name settles into him like a second spine. Sun Wukong. He repeats it silently, testing its weight. The master continues. "If you are to walk the path you desire, you must understand something first. Immortality is not granted. It is cultivated." He leans forward slightly. "And even then, it is not without trials." The room remains silent. Sun Wukong feels the gravity of what lies ahead. He has been given entry. He has been given a name. But the path to what he seeks has only just begun. Chapter 6. The 72 Transformations Revealed. Training does not begin with miracles. It begins with repetition. Sun Wukong wakes before dawn with the other disciples. He carries water from a narrow spring that runs behind the cave. He sweeps stone floors until the dust disappears into the cool air. He tends to plants that grow in shallow soil, carved into terraces by patient hands. The work is quiet. The work is humbling. No one speaks of immortality during daylight hours. The master lectures on harmony, on balance between breath and body, on the nature of emptiness, not as absence, but as space in which all things move. Wukong listens. He absorbs quickly, but the master does not praise speed. He corrects posture, adjusts breathing, demands patience. Weeks pass, perhaps months. Time in the cave does not behave like time outside. Then, one evening, when mist has sealed the forest in silence, and the other disciples have retired to their resting places, the master calls Wukong forward. There is no announcement, no audience, only the two of them in the lamplight. "You still seek freedom from death," the master says. Wukong does not hesitate. "Yes." The master studies him as he did on the first day. "You have endured the discipline. You have quieted your mind enough to hear what I will say." He gestures for Wukong to sit closer. "What you ask for is not protection from harm," the master continues. "It is escape from the ordinary cycle. Few are prepared for the weight of such escape." Wukong listens with focused stillness. The master lowers his voice. "There are methods to extend life," he says. "Methods to refine the body and spirit until decay slows and the breath lengthens." He pauses. "But every path carries resistance. In the old teachings," he explains, "there are calamities, forces that test those who attempt to rise beyond their allotted span. Storms of thunder, inner fires that consume from within, winds that strip flesh from bone. These are not threats delivered in anger. They are corrections, nature's attempt to restore balance." Wukong does not recoil. He does not question the danger. "How do I withstand them?" he asks. The master does not answer directly. Instead, he poses a riddle, a layered instruction hidden in casual tone. He speaks of forms that change, of bodies that adapt, of survival through flexibility rather than resistance. Wukong understands. The lesson is not offered openly. It must be requested. Later that night, after the master has withdrawn to his chamber and the cave has fallen silent, Wukong approaches the door. He kneels outside. He waits. There is no impatience in him now, only steady intent. After a long interval, the door opens slightly. The master's gaze meets his. "You listened," he says. "Yes." Then listen further. Inside the chamber, the air feels heavier. The master begins to speak of techniques not taught to the others, methods of transformation. He describes a discipline known in certain traditions as the 72 earthly transformations, a catalogue of change rooted in Daoist cosmology, representing mastery over the shifting forms of the material world. Wukong's eyes remain steady. The master explains. To transform is not to disguise. It is to understand structure deeply enough to reshape it. To become animal, insect, object, or man, not by illusion, but by altering the alignment of breath and essence. Wukong listens as if hearing his own nature described aloud. You must control the tail, the master adds dryly, a rare hint of subtle humor. Precision matters. Wukong nods. The lessons unfold over many nights. He learns how to shrink his form until he can slip through narrow cracks in stone, how to expand until his limbs stretch with impossible strength, how to take on the likeness of creatures he has studied in forest and field. At first, the changes are imperfect. A shadow lingers where it should not. A detail betrays him. But he adjusts quickly. Too quickly. The master notices. Do not display this lightly, he warns. Power shown invites challenge. Challenge invites consequence. Wukong bows in acknowledgement. He understands the warning. That part of him thrills at what he can now do. To shift shape is to refuse limitation. To refuse limitation is to edge closer to the freedom he seeks. The master continues the instruction. Breathing methods that circulate energy through hidden channels. Concentration techniques that anchor the spirit within the body so firmly that it resists separation. The cave becomes both classroom and crucible. Days remain disciplined and outwardly ordinary. Nights become charged with quiet intensity. Over time, the changes settle into Wukong as naturally as climbing once did. He no longer thinks about how to alter form. He simply does. The master watches with a measured expression. You have talent, he says one evening. Talent without restraint destroys itself. Wukong lowers his head. I will remember. The master studies him for a long moment. Then he speaks of another skill, one that expands not form, but distance. A technique less subtle, more expansive. You move well on land, the master says. You leap well between branches. Wukong nods. But what if the branch were the sky? The question lingers in the lamplight. Wukong feels the old hunger stir again. Not reckless, not wild, but eager. The master stands. Tomorrow, he says quietly, you will learn to travel differently. The lamp flickers once, and the lesson ends for the night. Chapter 7. Before the Leap. The cave feels different that night. Not darker, not quieter, but expectant. Sun Wukong sits alone in the outer chamber after the other disciples have withdrawn. The lamplight has been extinguished. Only moonlight filters faintly through the narrow openings high above, tracing pale lines along the stone floor. He does not practice transformation. He does not attempt another shift of form. For the first time in many nights, he is still. The master's final words echo gently in his mind. Tomorrow, you will learn to travel differently. Not transform. Not conceal. Travel. The distinction matters. He has already learned how to change himself. But movement through space without contact, that is something else entirely. He walks toward the mouth of the cave. Mist hangs low outside, pooling along the slope, like breath caught in the earth's throat. The forest below is silent. Even the wind seems restrained tonight. He steps onto a flat stretch of stone near the entrance and looks outward. Height feels different when you are aware of it. Earlier in his life, he climbed instinctively, branch to branch, cliff to cliff, never considering distance beyond the next grip. Now, standing above valleys swallowed in darkness, he feels scale. The world stretches farther than it did when he first arrived. Or perhaps he has simply learned to see farther. He thinks of Flower Fruit Mountain, of the waterfall, of the cave where laughter once filled the air without question. He thinks of the body that did not rise. That memory remains the root of everything. Without it, he would not be here. He flexes his fingers. These hands can now alter their shape. These limbs can expand or contract. But they still press against ground, still depend on something solid. He crouches and then rises again, testing balance. What would it mean to move without relying on earth at all? The question hums quietly in him. Behind him, unseen but not unheard, the master steps into the entrance. He does not announce himself. "You are restless," the master says. Wukong does not turn immediately. "Yes." The master stands beside him, both gazing outward. "You have learned to bend structure," the master continues. "But bending distance requires a different awareness." Wukong listens. "Most beings believe space is fixed," the master says. "That to reach somewhere, one must cross every step between here and there." He pauses. "But distance is a perception of separation." Wukong absorbs the words without trying to solve them. The master studies him from the side. "You seek freedom from death," he says quietly. "Yet freedom from ground unsettles you." Wukong considers this. It is true. There is a comfort in stone. Even at his most ambitious, he has always launched from something firm. The master turns slightly toward him. "Power without center scatters," he says. Tomorrow, you will test whether your center holds. The wind shifts subtly, curling past them and down the mountainside. The master retreats back into the cave without further instruction. Wukong remains. He closes his eyes. He slows his breathing until the rhythm matches the faint pulse of night. He imagines stepping outward, not onto rock, but onto nothing. The thought no longer frightens him, it excites him. But beneath that excitement, something steadier now exists. Discipline. He no longer leaps simply because he can. He waits because he chooses to. When at last he returns inside, he lies down, but does not sleep immediately. He feels the mountain beneath him, feels its weight and solidity, feels how small even this great peak would appear from high enough above. The idea does not inflate his pride, it sharpens his focus. Tomorrow, he will test whether Earth is necessary. And when dawn begins to lighten the cave walls, he will follow the master upward. Chapter 8. The Cloud Somersault. 108,000 li. Dawn arrives without color. At this height, light does not rise gradually. It spills. The master leads Sun Wukong higher than they have gone before, past the outer terraces, past the meditation ledges, beyond the pine line where only rock remains. The air thins. Breath grows sharper. Below them, valleys fade into layered blues, indistinct and quiet. Rivers appear as silver seams. Distant settlements are nothing more than pale smudges. The world does not look fragile from here. It looks small. The master stops at the edge of a broad stone shelf that extends into open space. There is no guardrail, no boundary, just air. Wukong steps beside him. He does not peer down. He looks forward. Movement, the master says calmly, is not always the crossing of distance. He gestures to the horizon. Sometimes it is the refusal to acknowledge distance at all. Wukong feels the weight of those words. The master continues. You have shaped your body. You have disciplined your breath. Now you must loosen your dependence. Dependence on what? Wukong asks. The master taps the stone beneath their feet. This. Silence settles between them. Then the master steps back. Show me. There is no elaborate stance, no ritual. Wukong draws in a slow breath, deeper than before, not to fill his lungs, but to quiet his pulse. He steps to the edge. The drop is immense, but the height no longer dominates him. He bends his knees slightly, not in fear, in preparation. The world below remains still. The sky above remains wide. And then he leaps, not outward, upward. For a heartbeat, gravity behaves as expected. The ground pulls, air rushes past his ears. But mid-motion, something shifts. Not in his muscles, in perception. The sky does not feel empty, it feels present. He turns in a clean arc, one complete somersault. And as he completes the rotation, the air beneath him thickens, not visibly, not like smoke, but like substance acknowledging him. Cloud gathers, not from nowhere, but from everywhere at once, condensing under his feet as if responding to alignment rather than force. He does not fall. He does not land. He stands, balanced on something that moments ago did not exist. The master remains far behind him on the cliff's edge. The distance is already wider than a normal leap could allow. Wukong looks down. The mountain has receded, not by sliding away, but by being left. He shifts his weight slightly. The cloud responds. He leans forward, and the world moves. Not slowly, not violently, but decisively. The landscape beneath him glides backward, as if pulled by invisible thread. Valleys roll past in quiet succession. Rivers arc and vanish. Forests flatten into textured green fields. Wind no longer pushes against him. It parts. He feels neither strain nor resistance. The motion is effortless. He laughs once, not loudly, not wildly, but in disbelief. The horizon bends toward him. He completes another somersault. The transition is seamless. Each rotation folds space further. Mountains that would require months to cross on foot slip beneath him in a breath. The scale of the world rearranges itself around his movement. The master's earlier measure, 108,000 li, ceases to be a number and becomes sensation. Distance dissolves. Wukong slows. He does not crash back toward Earth. He wills stillness, and the cloud obeys. He hovers above a distant ridge, sunlight warming his shoulders. He stands upright, balanced above open air, the earth far below. For the first time, he understands something profound. The ground was never his only support. He completes one final arc, precise, measured, and returns to the original cliff where the master waits. He lands gently on stone. No stumble, no excess movement. The master studies him for a long moment. "You understand," he says quietly. Wukong nods. "Yes." "Say it." Wukong considers. "The world is not fixed," he says at last. "Only my belief in its limits was." The master's gaze sharpens faintly. "And what will you do with that understanding?" The question lingers. Wukong does not answer immediately. He looks once more at the valleys below, at how small even vastness appears from height. Then he bows. "I will not waste it." The master holds his gaze a moment longer, measuring more than the words. "You will leave soon," he says. It is not phrased as possibility, it is certainty. Wukong feels it too. He has acquired what he sought: the discipline to resist decay, the adaptability to survive calamity, the freedom to cross the world in a single turning of his body. He stands differently now. Not larger, not louder, but lighter. The master turns and begins walking back toward the cave. "There are consequences to power," he says over his shoulder. "The sky notices those who travel it." Wukong absorbs the warning, but he does not feel arrogance. He feels readiness. When he leaves that mountain, when he returns to Flower Fruit Mountain, he will not return as the same king who left. He will return changed. Not because he conquered anything, but because he stepped beyond reliance. As the sun rises fully, the cliff warms beneath his feet. The valleys below brighten, and Wukong understands something he did not know when he first stood before the waterfall. Some leaps cannot be undone. He closes his eyes briefly, then follows the master down. Epilogue. When the king returned. Different mountains remember, not in words, not in carved stone, but in vibration. When Sun Wukong leaves the master's mountain for the final time, he does not look back long enough to make it sentimental. The cave closes behind him as it always has. Mist settles. Nothing outwardly changes, but something has shifted in the pattern of the world. He steps to the cliff once more. This time, there is no test, no instruction, no supervision. He breathes in once, steady, measured. Then he turns. One clean somersault. The cloud gathers beneath him, as if it has been waiting. The land unfolds below in sweeping arcs. Valleys glide, rivers bend. Forests pass like dark silk drawn across green earth. He does not rush. He travels with precision now. He understands scale, understands restraint, understands that speed without purpose is only noise. And in time, after distances that would take lifetimes on foot, he sees something familiar. Flower Fruit Mountain. It rises from the earth exactly as it did before, unchanged. The waterfall still falls, the trees still sway. The cave still waits behind its veil of water. From above, it looks small. From above, it looks almost fragile. But Wukong does not feel superior. He feels something else. Awareness. He descends slowly. The cloud dissolves beneath him without spectacle. He lands on stone at the edge of the mountain, where he was once born. The air smells the same. Sweet fruit, damp bark, moving water. Time has passed here, but not in the way it passed for him. The troop sees him first as a silhouette, then as a shape emerging from morning mist. They rush toward him, curious, uncertain, hopeful. He stands still as they gather. He looks the same, and yet not. There is no visible crown, no glowing mark, no aura. But something in his posture is different. Stillness where there was once constant motion. Depth where there was once instinct. He walks with them toward the waterfall. The sound is familiar, but it does not drown out his thoughts anymore. He steps through the falling water without breaking stride. The cave receives him. It is unchanged. Stone ledges, cool air, echoing space. But he does not sit immediately. He stands in the center of the chamber and feels the memory of the night when one of them did not rise. That was the beginning. Not the stone cracking open, not the leap through water. That quiet body in the dim cave. That was the moment everything tilted. He closes his eyes briefly. He has learned to reshape himself. He has learned to travel beyond distance. He has learned methods to resist decay. But he also understands something new. The sky does not ignore those who walk upon it. Power ripples outward. Movement leaves trace. And somewhere, far beyond the mountain, in halls where celestial records are kept, in courts where disturbances are measured, attention shifts. Not in alarm, not yet, but in notice. The mountain does not know what is coming. The troop does not know what is coming. Even Wukong does not fully know. But the world has changed. Because a being born of stone has learned he does not need the ground. And once someone realizes that, the balance of things begins to lean. The waterfall continues its endless descent. The forest breathes. The cave echoes faintly with returning laughter. And above it all, the sky remains vast, watching. Thank you for sitting here with me, for listening slowly, for letting the story breathe. Wherever you are tonight, may the world soften its edges for you. You don't need to hold on to the myths. They know how to wait. Rest now. The night is still listening. Yours, Lady Mythos.